It's Connor Casey who's back with us today.
Yay, Connor!
And all right, Connor, you and Matt, you guys get some time to talk about everything that is going down in the wrestling world. And it seems like you guys are going to be busy this weekend.
Yeah, there are three. it's a rare thing. There are three shows this weekend. We got three different, I will say, 2 pay-per-views and a premium live event, which still sounds dumb when I say it out loud.
Here's the issue with that. Do you pay for Peacock? Then you are paying to view the pay-per-view. So that's why that PLE never makes sense.
That's true. Very true. Yeah, I get it free through my Xfinity subscription. So technically, I have to call it a premium live event. but yeah, everyone else has to do it. Of course, we have Clash at the Castle. And then we have, for NXT, we have Worlds Collide. And then it's capping off with AEW's All Out. So, like, not only do we have, like, 3 different events, but also 2 really big ones. WWE is super hyped up Clash at the Castle, and then All Out is one of, obviously, AEW's biggest shows. So, you know, kind of going just from there, just broadly, I guess, Connor, which show has the best lineup? Like, which is the one that you're looking forward to the most? I feel like I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask anyway.
So, Matt, I'm actually going to play against character a little bit on this one because looking at all 3 cards, I think Triple H is going to walk away from this weekend as the winner because he is going to prove that less is more. And in that All Out, while there are some great matches there, and I'll name a couple for you. They're batting 1,000 when it comes to the Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, and Buck storyline. And I don't think this weekend is going to be any exception. I think that 4-way interim women's title match is going to be great.
It's gonna be
I think this weekend could be the crowning moment for Athena, while also moving Jade Cargill into the next stage of whatever they want to do with her. And I think just having Eddie Kingston versus Ishii casually on the kickoff show is madness. And it's the kind of madness that I absolutely love. My issue with All Out is that I don't think there's a way to book CM Punk versus Jon Moxley that satisfies everyone. Having a 30-minute competitive match will have complaints. Since the first match was a 3-minute squash, people are going to go, wait, why didn't Mox just kill him again? Moxley winning outright isn't going to satisfy the people in the Chicago crowd where it's taking place. And I don't think they pulled the trigger all the way on a heel turn from Punk. So if he just straight up wins and it's the Rocky 3 ending, you're going to have a lot of angry critics online being like, but why did Moxley beat him so easily the first time? Whereas with Clash at the Castle, I think it's a lot easier to make people happy, especially if they're going the direction I think they're going with Roman and Drew. Also, just the sheer fact of you're in a UK crowd. It's the first stadium show they've had in 30 years. If you've ever seen British wrestling crowds, they are their very own breed. And they take a lot of notes from soccer matches, so expect a lot of singing and constant chanting. That show, just for the crowd alone, is going to be a lot of fun. So I think WWE walks away the winner as a result of that.
Yeah, I think it's hard to argue with that. I will say for me, it's very much that. I think the combined, you know, while obviously like Worlds Collide is not going to be kind of put up on the level of either of those 2 pay-per-views, right? Because those are like 2 main roster things. I still think it's a supremely strong card on the Worlds Collide thing. So I feel like we'll still have some. I mean, you had me at Carmelo Hayes and Ricochet. That's gonna be a banger. That's gonna be a great match. And there's several of those matches, like the tag team match. That's gonna be great. So like we've got 2 unification title matches, and like those are going to be fun. So there's a lot going on there. So I think the combined like NXT Worlds Collide as a nice little, you know, kind of appetizer, if you will, to that, and then combined with Clash at the Castle's strong card, I think that is it. Also, I agree with you on the Punk and Moxley stuff. I think I was fine with the squash if we then move Punk into that full heel. If like that's the mechanism we need to get him into that full heel mode, cool. I'm cool with that. It was a swerve. It was, you know, it shocked everybody. Cool. And then we move him into the next phase. And then he gave that promo, and I didn't like that promo at all. I just did not. It's probably the one that probably the worst one since Punk has come to AEW. He's been killing it on the mic as always, but that one was just weird. 1, in execution. But 2, just because it gave us this weird, like, okay, well, what are you? we don't know where you are in this. So I agree with you. I think a lot of people are going to be pissed either way. And that's a booking pretzel that I don't even know if Tony Khan can figure out and unravel. But All Out still has a strong lineup. I guess overall.
Two notes on that is, if that had been spread out, the squash, then the hey, I'm doubting myself, and the pep talk from Ace Steel, where he's basically playing Mickey to Punk's Rocky.
That's true. Yeah.
If that had taken place over the span of 2 months.
Yeah.
I think this flows a lot better than the fact that it's taking place over 2 weeks.
So why do you think they did that?
I think it was a simple matter of they wanted, and Tony talked about this on the call yesterday, they wanted to do something different. Instead of we're just going to have these two talk in the ring for 3 straight weeks, trading verbal barbs. They wanted to think outside the box a little bit and go, okay, we have the squash. Punk has to overcome his mental instability following the injury. Now we get the real match. Doesn't work for everybody. He said outright that he's not going to try this every time. I feel like this was their attempt at trying something different. So That's why we got it the way we did. And you also mentioned just the matches for Worlds Collide and Clash. When you add them together, it's 11 matches. Yeah. That equals the number of main card matches for All Out on top of another 3. So when I brought up earlier the whole less is more attitude, I think some people are just going to like Clash more because it's going to be a clean 3 hours and 6 matches. Whereas All Out, we're going to be sitting there 11 going, God, we've still got 3 matches left.
Well, that's okay. So that has actually been a pattern. That has happened the last couple of events I have watched for AEW. Have been really good. Like, they've had great matches and they've had killer moments. But my God, there is this tone of like, okay, I'm good. Like, I'm done. I don't need another one. And like last time, obviously, or, like before, right, when they stretched it for the NBA play, I understand like circumstances like that. That's different. But just overall, there is a lot of that, like putting too much on that card. There's a couple matches that don't need to necessarily be here. They can be saved for something else.
And I think the best way you combat that is you take your Dynamites and your Rampage that week of, because they're doing this thing now where they just make it a whole week of Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. We've got the same arena all 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Make those your pay-per-view weeks. Make it like, hey, this is the All-Out episode of Dynamite, the All-Out episode of Rampage, and the All-Out pay-per-view. And split the matches up so that, A, Rampage is actually, must-see television all of a sudden, and B, All Out doesn't feel like a 7-hour marathon.
Right. Agreed. No, I think that's a good thing. And before we move on to the next thing, Gunther versus Sheamus is going to be a slam. That is going to be great. And I'm so happy Gunther is not like being written off TV and stuff as those reports said of the old regime. And then for Athena, I think you're right. I think that happens. And then Jade can move into that AEW World Championship picture, right? Is the natural next step for her. So I think that's great.
One last thing we do need to consider with this weekend is that this is the first true Triple H production when it comes to pay-per-view. You can say SummerSlam was the first of his era, but all of those matches were booked by Vince, and the vast majority of the TV building up to that show was a Vince production. This is 100% pure cut. This is Triple H. Yeah. And I think he is looking at that as, I got to make a big impact. This is my first stadium show. We got to do some stuff that gets people talking.
I agree. And so that leads us to our last thing, because we're looking at this, the Triple H era has been very promising so far. It's gotten off to a really fun start. So yes, this is kind of that first big benchmark. Moving forward, and then of course coming off of this for Khan, there's a lot of questions and things like that. AEW has had their own little bit of, kerfuffle stuff behind the scenes, right? So people are looking at what he can do for the future. What are 2 moves or changes or even just matchups that you want to see happen moving forward that'll kind of, for you, be what sets it off into a right direction for both companies?
So for WWE, I am not trying to pick on this guy, but it immediately popped in my head when you asked the question, send Dominic down to NXT. He gets so much time on Raw, and the poor kid just needs to cut his teeth in the Performance Center and on NXT proper. He didn't know quite how to use the kendo stick when he had Rhea standing there. That storyline's getting a little kinky for my taste. Everybody has different strokes for different folks. But I don't see where this goes on public national television. Twitter is an entirely different story, and they're fun. But the other big change, and it ties into the main event, and it's split the championships. I've seen so many predictions this week where I have not heard a convincing argument for why Drew McIntyre should not win. And I've heard, what about The Rock at WrestleMania? The Rock has told this very website he is not coming back from a championship reign. So why on earth does Roman need to have the title if you're running the match anyway? Cody Rhodes is in the background. He only wants the WWE Championship. He does not care about the Universal Championship. So when he comes back, it's a bit of a miss. It doesn't quite make sense that he's chasing after the title he doesn't really care about when all of the story momentum is for the other one. Raw, for as good it has been in the last couple of weeks, it does not have the momentum it needs, and it gets with a world champion somewhere on the card. And you need to have that split. And Roman has outright said, my schedule's not changing. It's stay in this part-time form. And USA Network is sitting here going, well, why don't we have a world champion when Fox occasionally gets one? So split the titles, have Drew win, and we don't need to complicate this. He can come out the next night on Raw and say, you know what? I have been chasing the WWE Championship for 2 years. I do not have the same connection with the Universal title. And I think it was a mistake that these were unified. I am relinquishing the Universal Championship. Let SmackDown figure that out, and let me go back to being Raw's champion and actually get to do it in front of fans like I couldn't do it 2 years ago. Or if you want to throw a little bit of wrinkle in it because he hasn't been on TV in a minute, have Paul Heyman come out the next night and said, because I'm the wise man, I changed up the contract. Last night's match was only for the WWE Championship. Roman Reigns still has the Universal title. And go from there. Split the titles. Bring order back into this thing.
Okay, so
as for AEW, these ones are a little bit simpler. Your roster is basically healed up. Take a breath. Mm-hmm. Get back to long-term storytelling. And then you can relieve the pressure of an overinflated roster by getting that Ring of Honor deal done. I don't know what is holding that back. I don't know how much of that is Zaslav and what's going on with Warner Brothers Discovery, but it needs to happen so that Dynamite can get back to being the consistently great show it should be.
I think those are all great, by the way. I will say, because wrapping this up in a bow, I will say for both rosters, I have one that applies to both. I love the returns. This is awesome. It's awesome to see. And these were people I enjoyed. Like, I like Karrion Kross. I like Scarlett. I like Hit Row. I love Dakota Kai. Like, I love.
No love for Dexter Lumis. How dare you?
Dexter Lumis. I love that. The fact that Index is back just makes me happy in general. I just love that, right? So we've got some great. Johnny Gargano's back, right? So there's amazing returns, and I love it. However, I don't want it to be, because of course there's rumors of another person returning on Raw, right? So I don't want it to be like we need to like just bring everybody back, because then we're back to maybe like not having enough TV for everybody. And to me, that is something that is hurting AEW right now. So for AEW, I also say stop signing people. Find TV for the people. There's a lot of people, very talented people, that are getting kind of lost in the shuffle over there. And so hey, I know you have hours of TV on YouTube and stuff, but people are looking at Dynamite and Rampage, right? People look at Raw and SmackDown. Like, I get it. And NXT, obviously, but it's kind of its own thing. So stop signing people. Both. Stop bringing everybody back. Stop signing everybody, and let's maximize who we have. The other one I would say for WWE is, you know what? I kind of agree with you. I don't know if it happens here, but I do think soon, very soon, we gotta split the titles so Raw can have its own and SmackDown can have its own to free up storytelling possibilities. On the AEW side, I will say it's Tony time. So if you're not going to have Thunder take that title and continue to have that title because obviously injuries and things like that, okay. So let's start that. train, shall we? Let's start the Tony Storm train because it's going to be awesome.
Well, that was the plan, so they're probably just going to go ahead with it anyway.
I'm good with that. So yeah, that is wrestling. Of course, you can catch all of our wrestling coverage right here over the entire weekend at comicbook.com, and we will have tons to say about it. And look for our predictions as well soon. So thank you, Connor. Appreciate it, man.
Later.